We start another day in Oslo, Norway, walking from the hotel to the city hall. On the way to the city hall, we come across a travel agency advertising tours to the Philippines. At the back of the Oslo City Hall is the boat included in the hop-on, hop-off route. It will take us to the Oslo fjords, where we can see the type of houses some of the Norwegians have. Norway ranks as the second wealthiest country in the world after Qatar in monetary value, with the largest capital reserve per capita. There are several boat trips which can be found at the back of the City Hall, including grand tours for 7 hours, a buffet tour, or an island hopping tour. Packed with idyllic archipelagos, beaches, and middle-sized cities, the Oslo Fjord is the Greece of Scandinavia and perfect for night clubbing and island hopping in the summer months.
Well, good morning everybody, welcome on board. My name is Davinia, I'm going to be your guide for the next 2 hours, and I need to know if you all understand English. Yes? Nice. You don't understand?
There are more than 200,000 identified islands along Norway's coast, only surpassed by Greece. There are more than 450,000 lakes throughout Norway. Even inside the city of Oslo, there are several hundred lakes. Norway is home to the deepest lakes in Europe. 95% of the land is rocky wilderness and forest. So Norway has large, completely unpopulated areas. Based on the population and land area of Norway, there would be only 14 people for every square kilometer. Norway's primary source of income is the North Sea oil and gas industry, which makes up more than 20% of its GDP. From ancient times, Norwegians have been a seafaring people, not just for a love of the sea, but because there was no other way. These days, bridges and undersea tunnels are appearing everywhere. Not long ago, there were many places you could not get to unless you went by boat. In the fjords, the road suddenly ends and the journey continues by ferry. Now, express boats and car ferries sail up and down the coast, across open seas to towns, villages, and islands. They provide logistics for island hopping and any of your own itinerary. They also have an 11-day cruise, which should be the world's most beautiful sea voyage. What should be fascinating are the communities they stop by along the way. Due to the abundance of fjords and lakes the country has, which we saw from the train, summer houses by cliffs are also abundant. Some of them are being advertised for rent as vacation houses or bed and breakfast. It's easy to see on the web the available houses for rent. They come in different sizes, amenities, locations, and prices. Its main attractions are the lakes and the island hopping. The farther you go out, the more isolated the locations become. Some of the websites specify specifically how many meters the house is from the water. A concern would be the replenishment of supplies, how far and how often express boats would be available. Unless you're King Harald V, the King of Norway, who also represented Norway in sailing at the 64, 68, and 72 Olympic Games. This is the Nobel Peace Center in Oslo. It is a museum of the Nobel Peace Prize, which is awarded at the Oslo City Hall. It is not as interesting as the works of the laureates, or as interesting as the City Hall. It is a reminder of the virtues of a few selfless people in this world. The winners are given a medal, a diploma, and prize money. Prize money depends upon how much money the Nobel Foundation can award each year. The purse has increased since the 1980s, when the prize money was equivalent to $350,000 today. In 2009, the monetary award was $1.4 million. A medal, because it is rarer than $1 million, can fetch more. A medal sold for up to $4.7 million. James Watson, one of the scientists credited with discovering the structure of DNA. He made history when he became the first ever living Nobel laureate to put his prize medal up for auction. Watson and two others were awarded the 1962 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. He had it auctioned in view of his diminished income after a book tour public relations disaster, and to use part of the funds raised by the sale to support scientific research. The medal was subsequently returned to Watson by the purchaser, Russian tycoon Alisher Usmanov. Norway ranks among the first on the World Happiness Report. It also has one of the lowest crime rates in the world. Norway has had the highest Human Development Index ranking in the world. It has the world's largest sovereign wealth fund with a value of $1 trillion. The National Gallery of Oslo is administratively a part of the National Museum of Art, Architecture, and Design. It was originally located in the Royal Palace but got its own building in 1882. It contains a wide variety of 19th century European masters' paintings, which brings a relatively small but interesting mixture of European styles. However, the single most known painting it possesses is one of the painted version by the Norwegian painter Edvard Munch. This scream is the name given to each of four versions of a composition created as both paintings and pastels by Norwegian expressionist artist Edvard Munch. Munch created the 4 versions in various media. The National Gallery in Oslo holds one of 2 painted versions. The Munch Museum holds the other painted version and a pastel version. The 4th version, which is pastel, was sold for $119 million in 2012. The Scream has been the target of several high-profile art thefts. In 1994, the version in the National Gallery was stolen, but was recovered several months later. In 2004, the Scream at the Munch Museum was stolen, but was recovered 2 years later. After Oslo, Norway, which was our 10th country, we end our Scandinavia and the Baltics tour. We proceed to Amsterdam in the Netherlands for the last leg of our vacation to take advantage of the stopover there of the airline that we chose. The city of Amsterdam had always been a favorite of ours because there's so much to see. We like the food, the attractions are accessible, and the people are accommodating. This choice of accommodation was chosen to be able to have a kitchen, a laundry room, and a huge space. Although no kitchen, no laundry room, and a reasonable space in the center of the city has also its merits. But then again, learning, experiencing, and making use of the local transportation system is part of the interesting thing about traveling. The shops here have lower prices than at the center of the city. We decided to get the bus to see the sights along the way. You'll only see tunnels in the subway. The chip card they use requires passengers to place their card by the reader to beep on when boarding and do the same thing when getting off. The modern architecture of Amsterdam is as interesting as their ancient ones. The Netherlands is a country in Western Europe with a population of 17 million. Together with 3 island territories in the Caribbean, it forms a constituent country of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Only about 50% of its land exceeds 1 meter above sea level. Most of the areas below sea level are artificial. Since the late 16th century, large areas have been reclaimed from the sea and lakes. Netherlands is the world's 2nd largest exporter of food and agricultural products due to the fertility of the soil, the mild climate, as well as its highly developed intensive agriculture. The Netherlands has a long history of social tolerance and is generally regarded as a liberal country. It has legalized abortion, prostitution, and euthanasia, while maintaining a progressive drugs policy. The Netherlands abolished the death penalty in 1870. It had women's suffrage introduced in 1917. It became the world's first country to legalize same-sex marriage in 2001. Netherlands is one of the most egalitarian countries in the world. The UN World Happiness Report ranked the Netherlands as the 6th happiest country in the world. Amsterdam is the capital and most populous municipality of the Netherlands. It has a population of about 850,000, plus about 3.5 million tourists annually. Amsterdam became one of the most important ports in the world during the 17th century, which was a result of its innovative development in trade. During that time, the city was the leading center for finance and diamonds. The Rijksmuseum is a must-see in Amsterdam. Located at the Museum Square, the tram and the buses pass by this important location, so it is easy to go to. This area is also where plenty of other museums are. The architecture as well as the contents of this museum deserves an occasional visit. Its most distinguished Dutch artists are Rembrandt van Rijn and Johan Vermeer. The original of this replica of Leoc I and his sons, which was excavated in Rome in 1506, was placed in the Vatican. Frans Hals was a Dutch painter of portraits of mainly wealthy citizens. His paintings illustrate the various strata of society: officers, gentlemen, mayors to clerks, singers, and tavern heroes. Johan Vermeer specialized in domestic interior scenes of middle-class life. He was acknowledged as one of the greatest painters of the Dutch Golden Age. Almost all his paintings are set in two small rooms in his house and show the same furniture and decorations in various arrangements and often portray the same people. Rembrandt van Rijn is known for his self-portraits and biblical scenes. This Dutch painter is considered to be one of the greatest painters in European history. Rembrandt's style involves the use of shadow and light. His style leaves large areas of his paintings obscured in shadow. He creates spots of brightness and pockets of deep darkness. The Rijksmuseum was founded in The Hague in 1800 and moved to Amsterdam in 1808, where it was first located in the Royal Palace. It is the most visited museum in the Netherlands, with a record of more than 2 million visitors a year. Holland is a region and former province on the western coast of the Netherlands. It is frequently used informally to refer to the whole of the country of the Netherlands. The official name of the country is the Kingdom of the Netherlands. The use of Holland is commonly accepted in other countries and sometimes employed by the Dutch themselves. However, some may find it undesirable and misrepresentative. From the 10th to the 16th century, Holland was a political region within the Holy Roman Empire. By the 17th century, it has risen to become a maritime and economic power. The area of the former County of Holland together include Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and The Hague. Bartholomew van der Helst is considered to be one of the leading portrait painters of the Dutch Golden Age. His elegant portraits gained him the patronage of Amsterdam's elite. In 1817, the Naval Department set up a model room for the ship and technical scale models that were used for building ships and instructing their crews. After several years, the objects were transferred to the Rijksmuseum. During World War II, thousands of Dutchmen were deported to work in Germany, and 23,000 people who resisted the Germans were shot. The worst suffering was in 1944-45, when the Germans looted the Netherlands of food, reducing the people to near starvation. In 1940, about 140,000 Jews lived in the Netherlands, but less than 25,000 survived. Today, the Netherlands is a prosperous country. Flower growing is still an important industry. Willem-Alexander is the king of the Netherlands today, having ascended the throne following his mother's abdication in 2013. The Rijksmuseum holds one of the most important collection of Meissen porcelain outside of Germany. Porcelain, maiolica, faience and stoneware are the collection of ceramic objects at the Rijks. The difference between these types of earthenware has to do with the material they are made of or manner of production. Petronella Dunois was a Dutch art collector known for her dollhouse. Dunois lived with her sister after their parents died. Both were rich and each made her own dollhouse, but only Petronella's has been preserved through the centuries. The dollhouse was preserved, descending via the female line in the family until it was donated to the museum in 1934. The Rijksmuseum Research Library is the largest public art history research library in the Netherlands. This William Rex model shows the appearance of a Dutch warship in the late 17th century. It was made in the dry docks of Vlissingen, where real warships were also built. The ship would have been more than 12 times larger than this model. It has 74 guns. The most famous Dutch painter who has his own museum, not too far away, is Van Gogh. This self-portrait is one of about 40 Van Gogh produced over a 10-year period. The history of Dutch art is dominated by the Dutch Golden Age paintings, mostly of about 1620 to 1680. This period in Dutch history roughly spans the 17th century, during and after the latter part of the 80 Years' War for Dutch independence. A distinctive feature of the period, compared to earlier European paintings, was the small amount of religious paintings. Dutch Calvinism forbade religious paintings in churches. The enormous success of the 17th century Dutch painting overpowered the work of subsequent generations. Already by the end of the period, artists were complaining that buyers were more interested in dead than living artists. Antoon Lipkens worked on developing a Dutch submarine. It incorporates several improvements such as a centrifugal pump for propulsion. Due to a lack of financing, a full-size version was never built. The first operational submarine entered service in the Royal Netherlands Navy only 70 years later. Meissen porcelain or Meissen china was the first European hard-paste porcelain. The holdings of Delft comprise objects from around 1640 to the end of the 19th century. Where did the term "Let's go Dutch" come from? To go Dutch or Dutch treat means for each person in a pair or a group to pay for himself or herself. The origin of the phrase "to go Dutch" is traced back to the 17th century when England and the Netherlands fought constantly over trade routes and political boundaries. The British use of the term Dutch had a negative connotation because the Netherlanders were said to be stingy. Among the best side trips you can do from Amsterdam is a one-day trip to Bruges, Belgium. Bruges is about 270 kilometers southwest of Amsterdam and will take a bus about 3 hours to get there.
Just a minute, I'll slip something on.
Bruges, the capital of West Flanders, is distinguished by its canals, cobbled streets, and medieval buildings. The historic city center is oval and about 430 hectares in size. The city's population is about 120,000. Besides the inspiring walk around town, the outstanding boat trip, chocolate waffles and its embroidery are two specialties which should seriously be looked into at Bruges. The composition of Belgian chocolate has been regulated by law since 1894. To prevent adulteration of the chocolate with low-quality fats, a minimum of 35% pure cocoa was imposed. In Flanders, lace is not merely a craft, but a part of the region's cultural heritage. The roots of Flemish lace go back as far as the 15th century. In the early 20th century, there were approximately 47,000 lace makers in Belgium. Around 70% of these worked in Bruges. The Museum of Costume and Lace in Brussels is a repository of Belgium's textile heritage.